I think friendship is the muscle that you have to work prior to marriage.
Yeah. I'm starting to see a change in every relationship because I'm working on myself as being a better friend.
What does it look like to have a friend in Jesus? We know him as Lord. We know him as Savior. What does it look like for a believer to actually know him as friend?
Friendship is born at the point that two people say, oh, you two?
Seeing that my humanity was rejected, what it taught me was I have to be performative in every space.
I do think it can be a little bit easier to look at him as a friend because we've all at some point experienced a friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here and back with another episode of Beyond Sunday, the conversation that we all need when Sunday is just not enough. I'm hanging out with my friends today, C and O. What's good?
Yeah.
What's goody?
It always sounds like he's saying CEO. I'm like, prophesy, sir.
Hey.
C-O, I see. C and O.
Yeah.
CEO.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could ever be a CEO, guys.
Okay. Say more.
Yeah, elaborate.
I don't know. Like, I just feel like the pressure and the responsibility for all of these people in a company, like, it's just CEO, man of God. I mean, you are.
More.
Yeah. You know, like, there are just some things where I'm like, I don't even know if I want that pressure. Like, some people be like, oh, I'm going to be a CEO, I'm going to be a boss. I'm like, I'm actually okay with, like, you know, my sphere of work that I do, and I'm good. Not that I don't want to grow and be better, but I don't think, like, my goal is to be a CEO.
I think that's mature, though. I mean, sometimes everybody don't want everybody thinks you want the seat, and you get the seat and be like, I actually like my other seat
Yeah.
a little better. So,
yeah,
good point.
Yeah,
I think God can give you the grace to do hard things.
Well, thank you. So, wow, maybe season 2 is a new season where y'all are going to be nice to me and pour into, like, me spiritually and just kindly.
Wow.
Actually, guys, know right before this, Omar said that I looked like I had a Barbie hairstyle in, which made me seem like I look childish. So
I was trying to affirm you, but you received it wrong.
I did. There was a stone where you shared that.
I've been married for 13 years and with my wife for 20, so I just don't comment on hair. That's just what. See, that's the wisdom. You just don't.
That's not his marital status. So
you just.
There is a narrative that Ciera has created that we pick on her.
For sure.
That people also affirm and say all the time. They were like, they be picking on you on that podcast. They don't.
No. Those are your friends and fans.
The mothers, the aunties, the grandmas, everybody of this church be coming up to me and
show
be like,
me a receipt.
Y'all, please back me up in these comments today, y'all. I need y'all to just affirm the fact that season 1, they always were coming for me in the introduction.
Name one time that I've ever come for you on the show.
What was that dish that your grandma fixed? Green bean casserole. Y'all called me out about not knowing how to play spades. You called me out about playing basketball and missing my shot. Guys, I have receipts.
That's fine. But first of all, just to be very clear, the moment Omar said that, I said it, but we shouldn't ask for receipts because there were receipts.
There are. There's several.
I just don't know if it should be classified as a narrative. I think there are certainly moments.
I've made peace.
Where
I've made peace with it.
Yeah. But no, wow.
And Ciera of all people knows that you and I both affirm her. You as a father, me as a brother, you are affirmed. Now, publicly, when we get in front of these cameras,
they privately affirm me, but then when we out in public, boy, do they light me up.
Balance.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got to keep you humble.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Time.
Well, I just want to take a moment and say I really like your shirt, Pastor Omar.
Let's go.
Thank you.
I love it. Did you distress it yourself, like with a?
No, I did not distress it myself. I purchased it from Zara.
Zara. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I love it.
Zara.
Yes.
You are affirming us with your shirt today.
Yes, you are enough.
You are
you hit
enough.
a moment when you ain't got nothing nice to say about somebody's outfit, so you be like, and you are affirming us.
Yeah. Let's now take our attention to.
You are enough.
Man, I just also want to have a moment for the feet. I feel like everybody really came.
Yes.
I didn't get the Yeezy memo.
Put your shoe up.
I didn't get the. But I got a little dunk action.
Little Yeezy.
Wow. Love
Everybody
that.
looks great this season.
Hey.
Everybody looks great.
2 episodes in, we're on a roll.
Well, let's hope that we set the standard. And
My God.
Because
stay tuned.
Who knows?
I just want to make it known that when we first started the podcast, I was really adamant about, do clothes really matter? I was like, we're thinking of this way too much. I was wrong. Because, people have really complimented. People come up to me and be like, man, I love, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I tell everybody, don't let me ever come into like money. Like, you know, I'm talking about like
money.
Like generation money. Like, you know, because I'm going to just wear a white t-shirt every day.
Oh, man. Like from Target or?
No. It would be like.
It'll be a nice white tee.
I don't even know. Like a
Gucci.
Gonna be, it's going to be a Louis Vuitton.
White tee.
Yeah.
Who?
You're going to have a Louis Vuitton white t-shirt on.
Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Oh, woman of God. I've been to the Louis Vuitton store. Listen to me. Very grateful for the experience I had.
Yeah.
But yeah, not white tees. I'm gonna be like, what I'm gonna do is be at Express.
Okay.
And I'm gonna get some Express white tees.
You know, Express is going out of business.
What?
Oh, that's.
Are you unaware?
No.
Yeah, they're shutting down,
man.
Reverend.
That's literally where he shops.
Yeah,
that's his store.
Yeah, you might want to get whatever you want from Express. Get it now.
Are you kidding me?
Oh
I'm
man, well that means they're gonna have a everything must go sale.
But
so you
like,
should
no,
really
everything
rack
is almost gone. I was there. Yeah, yeah, Reverend.
Oh no!
You got about the time this aired. Yeah. I'm gonna let you grieve.
Yeah, let's take a moment of silence for Express. For
Rest in peace to Express.
Because I don't know. Well, there's plenty of other
like
places
their
to
suits
shop.
fit me. So this is why I'm grieving so much. People don't recognize that as a result of having cancer and having surgeries on my leg, that it's actually really hard for me to find stuff that fits, like that fits well, without having to tailor it.
Okay.
Because I got one small leg.
It's all right. It's okay.
I'll get stuff.
You are enough.
I am enough.
You are enough.
Remind yourself,
Express suits are like one of the only places where I can just walk in, get a suit off the rack, it fits me well, and wear it. Yeah. That doesn't exist in my world. And it's gone?
Yeah.
Maybe they have like stores that are, maybe you should look up if there are any other clothing stores that have a similar fit.
Fashion Nova Men. I've been trying to put you on a Fashion Nova Men for the longest
I'm not going to
time.
allow my pastor to get up in a Fashion Nova Men suit.
Guys, the suits are not all that bad.
But we need quality at this point.
I do go to Suit Supply as well. Suit Supply is really good.
He needs quality suits at the level of pastoring he's at. I just feel like
you talking about like a full-on suit. Like if you're talking about a full-on suit for a business casual.
Well, because that's what he was saying. The pants.
Yeah, I just like
and the
stuff.
Pants
how that
fits.
particularly, but suits and stuff. So
if you're going to clothes on the building, I'm not saying Fashion Nova.
Please
for
don't.
a Sunday morning, you just want a blazer.
Like a chill.
Okay. Fashion Nova Men to get you.
Well, thanks and friends. Put recommendations in the chat.
Wow.
Help me out.
Yeah.
Man,
Steve Harvey has a suit line.
Yep. Wild out here.
Let's head into the content of today's episode. Has nothing to do with fashion, but actually about friends. Friends. How many of us?
I thought we were about to harmonize.
Oh, we could? Okay.
Ready?
Start us. I have to follow you. So,
friends. How many
of us have them? I'm just going to actually end up singing in the key that you're in because I don't know how to harmonize. I'm just going to sing what you sing.
I was waiting patiently for this to play out.
Because I don't know the keys or the things.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's okay, guys.
No, let's go for it.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about friends today. So to kick us off, I want to know, do you remember one of your first friendships, whether it was in middle school, elementary school? Who was that friend, and how did y'all become friends? Like, what was the commonality between y'all's relationship?
Michael Cooper.
Okay.
I call him Coop. Still friends to this day. Was a groomsman in his wedding. I pray to be the groomsman in his next one. But
wait. No, rephrase what you just
let's
said.
hold on, because you just prophesied over Michael Cooper's life. And
I don't think you meant to.
No. The first marriage didn't.
Why did you
do these stories?
No, there was a conclusion to that chapter in his life, and I'm just hoping that in the next chapter of his life, I could be a groomsman in that wedding as well. But yeah, we were great friends since middle school. The commonality was laughter. Both class clowns. And, laughter. It's been a 20 years worth of just laughing and joking and in sports. We both played basketball. He was on the basketball team. I was on the basketball team. So
cool. Daryl Elliott.
Okay.
All day. Commonality was church.
Aww.
Yeah. So we literally grew up in church together. His family, my family. And I'll never forget when my parents had been separated, but they got back together again.
Yeah.
So moved to a different school for middle school. And I remember walking in. This is more like 7th, 8th grade. We were already good friends from church. But from day one, he was like, "Yo, you're my school now, and I got you." And Daryl went by Little Daryl, but he was really big, big guy. He was 6'3", like 250. By the time we got to high school, he played lineman in football. He was like unstoppable, had scholarships, everything. And so he just kind of really looked out for me, even though we were like the same age. Lil Daryl was like my guy. Yeah. But yeah, church was our commonality. Like we saw each other every Sunday and then all week at school.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So I would say elementary school. I actually had two, Carden Clark and Bailey McNeese. They were my two friends, and I think it was because we thought we were the Cheetah Girls. So we were very much into like all of the Disney movies and all of those things. And so we went to school together, we went to church together, and we played like we did cheerleading, basketball, like we did all of these things. So kind of similar to you and Lil Daryl, like we were literally together all the time. But it was like the three of us, and like we would find our fourth person for the Cheetah Girls from time to time. But like we would have Disney Channel sleepovers, like where we would watch the movie and like hang out. Yeah, those are my girls. And so
are y'all still friends to this day?
Oh, we're cool. We're not like as close, but like certainly still hit each other up on like social media and all the things and watching them grow. They both are moms now, and so it's beautiful to see.
Shout out to all the moms.
Shout out to all the moms. Y'all are doing great. So proud of y'all. Love y'all so much. God bless.
Nobody ever gives the dads love. We'll talk about it later.
You know what I think is super funny? Sorry, it's also a segue. Because I'm seeing it with my dad, but like when the dad is watching the kids, it'd be like, oh, are they babysitting? And it's like, it's their kid too. Like, it's not necessarily that they're babysitting. So I do agree. Sometimes the dads be getting a little less love, but hey, we love all of y'all.
Culture. We're gonna be a part of changing the narrative in the country. We're gonna be a part of it.
That's so good. But no, I wanted to ask that question, and even just how you became friends. And I love that you even asked, like, are y'all still friends? Because sustaining friendships is a thing I feel like I have in culture, Christian and secular, like have just seen the conversation of friendships coming up a whole lot. Just about how to keep friendships with trauma, just friend groups, just all the things. And so I feel like it's a conversation that is emerging, but it was one that I don't think was talked about enough. And so I am grateful that it's starting to become something that we are more aware of. But I would love to just start this conversation off with, what does it look like to sustain healthy friendship? And even like, how do you balance whether you're supposed to sustain something or sever it, like that tension?
It's really good. Want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the starting point, I mean, of sustaining anything is intentionality. Yeah. You know, like it takes work. I think people say this about marriage, but marriage works if you do. Yeah. I think friendships work if you do.
That's good.
I certainly think that there's a difference. I mean, you can take the conversation in a lot of directions about what happens when a friendship is no longer fitting for the season. Like, those things happen. But I think for the purpose of talking about friendship that we can sustain and should, it's about intentionality. Yeah. Like life doesn't, life is not going to create space for you to check on each other or to, grow in conversation or relationship or vacate together. You got to create that stuff for yourself. Yeah. So I think that's a huge part of it. One of the interesting things is I was talking to my therapist, and he was explaining to me about, as I was sharing with him about my friendships in this season, and even some of the desire I had to continue to be intentional in sustaining those friendships in a specific way. And he shared to me that most people live the first part of their life pretty much till 35-ish, give or take, with competency as the undercurrent to what they do, right? So you are learning skills and you are proving you have skills. And so you spend the first good portion and quarter of your life like gaining skills, learning skills, sharing those skills, and earning respect and proving that I can do this, I can move up the ladder, or I can accomplish a goal, or I can start that business or whatever. Yeah. And then it starts to transition. Yeah. And he began explaining to me that, Vernon, you're entering into a new season. You're moving from competency to communion. Yeah. Where what is valuable for you right now is actually the relationships that you have built. And now it's not enough for you to prove you can do anything. Yeah. You actually just want somebody to share it with. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's not enough to even just desire to have accomplishments, just to have them, but you want now your competency to actually be valuable for somebody else. Yeah. I mean, we even talked about you guys in therapy and our team and our staff.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, that's a part of your reality of relationships. And it was like, you've earned all of this experience and you've built something that you can be proud of. But now you're starting to be like, well, what's the point of it if I don't have any wisdom to invest or people to take along the journey with me? So I think a big part of it is just being mindful that as you go through different seasons of friendship, that you have to know, like, hey, even in the competency building season, I have to value that I don't want to get somewhere and then be there by myself. But then when you get to the sustaining phase, what I'm really feeling now is like, I don't want to just live off of what I can do. I want to live off of who I get to do it with and who I get to share it with. So I think, part of sustaining is just intentionality, but then also knowing that as seasons shift, you have a different fulfillment that comes from those relationships as well.
That's good.
Yeah, I think I want to take the approach of almost like talking to the person who's like a new believer, or maybe you're not a new believer. Maybe you've been a believer for a while, but you're trying to figure out, how does the Holy Spirit show up in my life in a practical way? So I'm going to kind of tie the thread here in a minute. I think about Galatians 5, right? Around verse 22, where you start to talk about the fruit of the Spirit. This is what the Holy Spirit produces in our life, right? Love, joy, peace. But there's this word or this phrase that we don't really deal with a lot: long-suffering.
Yeah.
Long-suffering is actually a quality. And because long-suffering, it is anti-being short-tempered. It is the ability to be patient, right? It is the ability to endure.
Yeah.
I think the quality of long-suffering actually shows up in friendships, in marriages, and relationships when you talk about sustaining. Because disagreement is inevitable. Distance is intentional. Division is intentional. I think when it comes to sustaining friendships, you do have to partner with Holy Spirit to allow long suffering to show up in your life, because you got to be patient with people. There are some times where you're going to have a disagreement with a friend, and it's just like, if you are not careful, you will allow offense to drive you apart. No matter how long you have been friends. I recently went to Vegas with two of my closest friends that I've known for 20 years. I've never been out of town with them before. I've known them for 20 years, and within those 4 days, I was like, I see y'all in a different light, not in a bad way, but I've seen something today that I didn't see in 20 years. And without the quality of long suffering, I now understand how people go on trips together and they come back and they're not friends.
You can't travel. You cannot travel with every friend.
And it's not to say that anything bad.
It's bad. Not everybody travels well together.
But it's one of those things to where I noticed how quickly, like, there was a moment to where there was a very small disagreement. And for a split second, it was just like, when I get back, like, like that thought ran through my mind. And I was like, wait a minute, like, where's that thought coming from? This is our first disagreement. We can work through this. This relationship is worth me being patient. I think sometimes in friendships, you have to determine, like, certain friendships, it is worth me enduring being offended, because people will offend you. You are married, so I'm sure that you can attest to the fact that I
never get offended. No, my wife is amazing, and no plans.
Pastor Vernon said, "You're not gonna throw me under the bus.
What you're not gonna do is set me up.
Right.
This man gonna just spontaneously be like,
you're married.
You know about being offended. What kind of stuff is this?
In any relationship, whether it be romantic, whether it be with coworkers, whether it be with friends that you grew up with family members, there are going to be times where people will unintentionally or intentionally offend you. And you have to have that quality of, how can I work through this versus running away? Because some people's natural reaction is, I'm hurt, I'm shutting down. I'm hurt, I'm walking away. I'm hurt, I'm going to distance myself because I don't have to deal with this. But long suffering is like, no, you got to stay in the fight. You got to endure the tough conversation. You got to endure the hard conversation. There are some times where you might be showing up a certain way in a friendship and you're thinking that you're doing everything right. And in the hard conversation, you get yourself revealed to you. It was like, oh man, I was actually the problem here. And now I have to endure being held accountable for how I made you feel. So I just want to encourage anybody who's watching is, like, develop that muscle of long suffering, develop that muscle of patience. I think there's nothing that tests your patience or develop your patience more than long lasting relationships, in this context, friendships.
No.
If I can just piggyback off of that, just because you called caught me into it.
Yeah. Go right ahead. Speak to it, man.
But I will say that is a reality in covenant and in marriage.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are married who know how to focus on their future, but they don't know how to focus on their friendship. And so what happens is they're great with finances. They're great with financial planning. They're great with even parenting. They're great with all of these aspects that are a part of what it means to be in covenant. But while they're focusing on building an amazing future, they don't create space to focus on building a great friendship.
Wow.
And so what then consequently happens is, to your point, like offense will come, right? And challenges will emerge. But because the foundation of friendship does not exist, it is easy to say, well, the money and the financial planning isn't worth it, right? Or we've seen it happen where, we can love the kids separately because what we didn't build on was a healthy friendship. Friendship does not mean, I want to make sure I help somebody who might be married or about to get married. Friendship does not mean that you have to like all the same things either.
That's good.
Ashley and I, if you know us well, anybody, we are certainly polar opposites.
Yes.
And when we got married, I think one of our early frustrations was, well, we're supposed to have fun by doing the same stuff together. And so I was like, you want to go shooting? You want to go shoot a gun? And she was like, I'm not touching a gun. Right? I was like, that'll be fun.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or she was like, do you want to watch Grey's Anatomy for the next 5 hours? That's not fun to me. Right? But we had to learn was, hey, now what is us creating a shared expression of friendship look like? And we found hobbies and things that we enjoyed together that helped us build a foundation of friendship that we could create long suffering in a relationship. So I just want to, just since you mentioned that, you put a nudge there, I think it's really important that you understand that it's not always natural.
Right.
That's the point I'm making.
That's so good.
It's not like being with somebody in covenant is not,
That's good.
friendship will always be natural. No, sometimes it's like we have to work at finding shared interest. And as you do that work, you find things that this is our thing. And as you build your thing, it gives you something to grasp to, hold to.
And I want to jump in and add on to that. Sometimes as people evolve, long suffering has to show up in a different way, or that patience has to show up in a different way. Because what happens when the foundation of our friendship was some shared interests or some shared environments, and then as I evolve, it's like, oh, wait, you still enjoy this. I no longer enjoy this. I'm still invested in this friendship, but now we have to change the way we fellowship because I've evolved as a person, you've evolved as a person, but our shared interests have changed, but our intention to want to do life together has not changed. So now we got to figure out, as we have evolved and as our schedules have changed and as our likes have changed, how do we maintain a healthy friendship even with different shared interests?
For sure.
Last episode, we talked a lot about like getting to the source or like the root and like noticing the pattern. And for me, I think I was able to look at the pattern of my friendships and have been able to say, man, you have not been able to keep friends because you do not involve yourself in confrontation. I have always been so afraid of conflict, of people like having an argument with somebody, having a heated conversation, having a heated discussion. And that all came because I was a people pleaser. And so it was just like, man, I just want everybody to like me. I want everybody to just be great with me at all times. I don't want there to ever be no issues. I don't want there to ever be no beef, no problems. So I am never going to address an issue that I don't agree with or address something that is making me feel uncomfortable because I don't even want to immerse myself or give myself the opportunity to have to come into a conflict like with this person or address that there actually is a conflict. And it was not literally until I was in my early 20s that I found out that like conflict is healthy. Like it's good to have those type of conversations. It is okay. Like we are all different. We are not going to agree. We're not always going to be on the same page. But if you don't ever have an opportunity in a safe space to have those conversations, then you'll never see the growth. You'll never be able to see, oh, I can still sustain a friendship even if we don't agree on everything or even if there is like a thing that just is a tension in our relationship, and it's like, this does not have to be the thing that tears us apart. Like it happened and this is still real, but it doesn't have to be the thing that separates us. And so I struggled with that for a long time, and I still have to like Ciera, is this something that's a conflict that you need to address and that you need to speak to? Or are you just trying to run and ignore it because that's not your preference? Like, you would prefer to not have a conversation. You would prefer to just keep it pushing like everything is good. And so I had to really recognize, like, man, there are probably some friends that I could have kept if I would have had the conversation.
Wow, that's really good.
There are probably situations and moments where it's like, man, see, if you would have just spoke up, so they could have seen your point of view instead of you trying to put on this people-pleasing type of facade of like, I'm just going to act like I'm not bothered. I'm going to act like everything's cool, and we're just going to keep it pushing. And it's like, man, you may have done more harm to yourself and that friendship than if you would have just actually had the hard conversation.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question.
Please do.
So a cultural phrase that we often use when it comes to relationships romantically that didn't work out and somebody goes back, oh, you spun the block. Oh, you need to spin the block. And hearing you say, oh man, there are certain friendships that I could have salvaged if I would have had the hard conversation. Have you ever spun the block on a friendship to where time has passed, cooler heads have prevailed, you've given some thought to it, and it's like, man, that friendship could have been sustained. Let me spin the block and have a conversation today that I should have had maybe years ago.
Yeah. Actually, yes. And it has been, and I've been able to witness now what it looks like to have the hard conversation and recognize that, because I think for me, the reason why I avoided the hard conversation was because I didn't know the outcome, or I had created an outcome in my head of what would take place if I did address it, or if I said, it was almost as though I was fearful of losing someone, and that was still kind of what was the aftermath of it anyway. I don't want to say how I feel, or that you made me angry, or that this is actually bothering me, because what if when I speak up you leave, or what if when I speak up there's always just this tension or something between us, where I would rather just ignore it and hope that we can continue to go on and nothing is ever but this is the elephant in the room, and it's like, no, like you actually need to address it. And so now that I'm learning, hey, you're grown, you're an adult, people are going to have different opinions, and different things are going to affect. You cannot control the way how somebody chooses to respond to something you do or say. That's up to them. They may be angry, they may be happy, whatever. You don't get to control how they respond to it, but you have an opportunity to then work with them or work through, hey, how did this make you feel when you do this? And I think for me, I just always looked at it, oh, you have those conversations in a relationship. I didn't know you could have those same conversations in a friendship. That we could sit down and be like, hey, when I said this, how did this make you feel?
Legit. Yeah.
It almost felt like friendships are just supposed to be, oh, we're all here for, and I don't know, maybe it's different for men, but I feel like for girls, it's kind of like, oh, we're here to shop. We're here to talk about boys. We're here to get ready together, go out to dinner, do all this. It was like friendship was supposed to be fluffy and fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, no, like these are people who actually want to do life with you. And you need to show up as your real self and be able to have real conversations, and don't run from the fact that y'all might have a disagreement, and you need to have, a conversation that, oh man, there's actually something that we there's a conflict here, but that does not mean we can't be friends.
It's crazy. And I mean, as the resident married person on the team.
May it change soon, Lord. My God.
Lord.
I think about it's gonna come all of a sudden. I think friendship is the muscle that you have to work prior to marriage.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is you do find that it's like,
that's good.
Like, I worry about people who haven't worked the friendship muscle well.
Yes.
Who then try to step into marriage.
Yes.
Right? It's like, well, Vernon, what does it mean to work the friendship muscle? It means that you've actually had a disagreement and you've practiced the art of having hard conversations.
Yes.
That you've actually humbled yourself and said sometimes, hey, that was me, I was wrong. That you were able to overcome pride and say, hey, instead of my pride, I value walking along in life with you. If you haven't started working that muscle to assume that you're going to be in covenant with somebody and that you won't have to exercise those same practices, is foolish.
Yes.
And so I think it is super important for anybody saying I aspire to be married to know that the muscle you got to start working on is friendship. I worry about people who've had 5 different friend groups in the last 5 years. What that says to me is it's going to be real hard for you to stay committed to a person when that person pisses you off.
That's real.
No, I'm literally living it out in real time. And I think that was how I was able to get to the source of like, oh man, I'm in a relationship and it's like I'm trying to be friends with this person, And I don't know if I know how to do this because I don't think I know how I am as a friend. Like, I don't think I've actually really assessed, like, are you even a good friend?
Yeah.
Are you even somebody who would you want to be your friends? Because how do you show up for you? But to that exact point of, like, you hear all the time, like, oh, friendship should be the foundation. Friendship should be what you build upon.
Yeah.
And you think, again, oh, well, we like the same things. We hang out. We have similar interests and things like that. And you feel like that's the friendship. But it's like, no, like, that is still deciding to choose a person, whether y'all agree or not. And then it's like, man, I actually have to, yes, work on the relationship, but go back to the drawing board. Like, you need to work on being a friend.
Yeah.
So work on those friendships, work on those relationships, because those are important. And then, like, as you should start to see, like, okay, I'm starting to see a change in every relationship because I'm working on myself as being a better friend.
This is off script. This leads me to a thought. Have we culturally reduced friendship to surface level commonality?
Oh, for sure.
I think so. That's how I looked at it. It was just like, oh, we had a common interest, and so we came together. But I never thought of it as like, oh, no, this is a real relationship, to the point I never looked at it as, I always looked at the romantic relationship of like, oh, this is where you have hard conversations. This is where you lean in. This is where you do all of this. And the friend was just the extra little, like, you just here for, because we supposed to have friends. Like, but you never did the hard work with them.
Now, I challenge that thought ever slightly.
Okay.
Because I do think that is a truth. But I also think it could potentially be an oversimplification.
Okay.
And you guys have probably heard me talk about this before. There was a book by Tom Rath called Vital Friends. And in that book, he talked about the 8 types of friendships you need in your life to be healthy. So I think that absolutely we could live into a cultural reality where we're like, oh, this person and I have a common interest, so clearly we must be friends. I also think that there is a place for that type of friendship.
For sure. Yeah.
C.S. Lewis says that friendship is born at the point that 2 people say, oh, you two? And so there is a reality that is a great catalyst. Right? Commonality is a great catalyst to friendship. It just doesn't satisfy the entirety of our soul.
Right.
And so part of what he talks about, Tom Rath, in Vital Friends is 8 types of friendships. I can't quote all of them right now, but like, I think you do need energizers, right? People who just make you laugh till your stomach hurt, you have fun with. You be like, man, I love hooping with them. I love traveling with them, but I would never ask them for marriage advice.
Right.
I would never ask them for spiritual advice potentially. Or you might have somebody who's like, this person is a great navigator is one of the categories. So I've had people in my life who are a little bit older than me who've navigated maybe ministry or leadership. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to navigate a tough decision. Can you give me some wisdom? Can you give me some insight? Am I asking the right questions? Great. They consider that a form of friendship, right? But that doesn't mean they become a companion. Because the companion category is like, you see me, all of me, bear my burdens, all that, right? And so I think part of what the mistake that we make in culture is we try to find 2 or 3 people to fit every category. We get frustrated when you're not showing up as my companion, but you're funny. And it's like, well, I put you in the wrong place. You know what I'm saying? This also happens in marriage. When we make our spouse all 8, we make them put them in a dangerous position. Because we say, if you don't make me laugh till my stomach hurts, that must mean that we're not great to be married.
Wow.
Right? And it's not true, right? Because that it could mean that they're a great companion, they're a great listener. And it could also mean they're a great navigator.
Right.
But that you need to have friendships outside of your union to keep you whole as well.
That's a great perspective.
That's great.
You know, we've been talking a lot about friendship and even some colloquialisms, right, surrounding friendship. One of the things I always heard growing up, what a friend we have in Jesus.
What?
Sing, Doc.
Friend we have in Jesus. All our sins.
I'm not going to sing this one.
Griefs to bear.
That's not my key.
What?
But no, we love that song. We've heard that. I think I would love to discuss practically, what does it look like to have a friend in Jesus? We know him as Lord. We know him as Savior. What does it look like for a believer to actually know him as friend?
Oh, that's really good. I think I'll just jump in and say I think part of this is so the beauty of the gospel.
Yeah.
In that it is a simple but beautiful truth that he was friend to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
That for 33 years he walked among us. That God became flesh. I think it is the thing that distinguishes our faith from others.
Yeah.
Is that he was all God.
Yeah.
And yet still friend enough to fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And friend enough to take food at the same table.
Yeah.
And for like no other religion has that.
Yeah.
And so I think even sometimes as believers and as Christians, we actually miss the easiest opportunity to evangelize because we try to share the deep.
Right.
When it's like the simple truth that he became friend is powerful.
Yeah.
And so and then what greater love is there than a friend would die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, for us. So I think that's just a beautiful picture of that. I also think, and I was looking at this in John 15:15, it says, Jesus says, I no longer call you servants because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I called you friends.
Yeah.
And here's the why. He says, for everything that I have learned, I have made known to you.
Yep.
He almost says, and the way I interpret this is, it is because of your awareness and your ability to fully see me and my plans and my pain and my grief and my wrestling and my question, like all of that. You see me, and I've made known to you the fullness of not only who I am, but why I'm here, my purpose, and all of those things, that we are now friends.
Yeah.
And so I think part of what Jesus models for us is not only how he was friend to us, but how we should be friend to others.
Yes.
I mentioned earlier, clearly I've been doing some work with my therapist. And I think that one of the things that he mentioned to me was that, Vernon, for most of your life, I was telling about like how I wanted to sustain just different friendships. And he was like, Vernon, I think a big part of the reason why this season of friendship mattered to you so much is because for you, it's the first time you've actually truly had deep friendships. And I was like, no, I didn't. I was like, you crazy.
You had a little
I was
Daryl.
I was a homecoming king. You know what I'm saying? I was the best all around.
Right.
Superlative. What are you talking about?
Right.
I had friends.
Okay.
Right.
And he was like, no. But they knew you based on your gift. They knew you based on your humor.
Yeah.
They knew you, even a lot of people knew you based on your sickness and your story. But they didn't deeply know you.
Wow.
And I'm grateful now to have a bunch of, like a group of people, not a bunch, but a group of people around me now who I know deeply know me.
Yeah.
And I think what Jesus models is that's the way to not only be friend, but to receive friendship. And so I think that's one of the beauties of Jesus is that he is not a high priest, as Hebrews says, that he is not aware of what we feel. But every affliction and every situation, he also empathizes and intercedes on our behalf. So I think that's part of the beauty of Jesus as friend.
You spoke to it earlier. Like, we talk a lot about God being like our father, but like the fact that he sent his son Jesus to be our friend, to be our brother, to then explore what does that relationship look like? What does it look like to be in friendship with Jesus? And the fact that he is our model, that he is, the person that we can look to and see examples all throughout his life of how he showed up and how he was a friend to others, but also just knowing that those same characteristics like he has with us, and just you see him throughout scripture being so gentle with people. He also called stuff out, but also being able to see gifts in his friends and to be able to know how to manage, when do I need to be with 12? When do I need to be with 3? When do I just need to be by myself? Like, just being able to see those things, but knowing that, man, like that's the same way that you show up in my life, that you ask questions, that you inquire, even though you are all knowing, you still want to have a conversation with me, that you still want to know, what are my thoughts? What am I feeling? That Jesus wept, that you are emotional, that you were still, yes, you were God, but you were also human, that you have emotion, and that you wept for your friends. Like, you were also grieved because your friends were grieved. And to see that, like, man, like he is also that for me. That, yes, he can, we see him as Lord, the dictatorship, like we try and like put him in this box of like, I have to just like follow this God who's big and like not connected to me. And it's like, no, like he is your friend, and that you are able to think of, you know, the relationships that we have been talking about, of friendships, and then be able to be like, man, like, well, what would it look like for me to show up as a friend with Jesus? Like we often talk about, you know, religion versus relationship, and that we should look at it as a relationship. And sometimes people have a hard time connecting him as a father because we've had, you know, issues with, you know, our earthly fathers or whatever that may be. But I do think it can be a little bit easier to look at him as a friend, because we've all at some point experienced a friend, whether it was good or bad, but we have had that experience before. And so changing the way you pray, changing the way that you commune with him, maybe it needs to look like, man, I want to see God as a friend in this season.
That's good.
That I want really to, when I dwell with him, when I meet with him, I see him as a friend, that I can tell him my deepest, darkest secrets. I can talk about the little stuff, the big stuff, the random, this person get on my nerves at work, like all of that. Like he is your friend. And I think that is just another way to just be able to see, I mean, the magnitude of who God is. Like it's just another way and opportunity to connect with him. And so, that's just been something that I've even been leaning into, of like I do it through journaling, but it's like, really man, I get to talk to you in this way, but it kind of feels like I'm writing to a friend. And it feels good to just talk to him as my friend. And I even love in John 15 in that scripture of him talking about like that he shares with us because we are his friends. So even knowing that when I talk to you, that like you are also pouring back into, like you are sharing things with me that I would not get if you weren't my friend. And so just knowing that even in that exchange, that it's like, man, you get to share what's on your heart and he gets to share what's on his.
That's really beautiful. Before you go, I just think that goes back to this idea of the beauty of what God really wants with us as humanity. I think we are so apt to talk about his power, but not his care. Like to talk about his strength, but not to talk about his comfort, right? Like it's like, no, or to just be like, man, like we talk about revelation, we don't just talk about conversation. Like, no, I was having a conversation with God the other day. I think more people will be attracted to the gospel and to the faith if we said he's not just big God in the sky, but he's also a friend who sits close. I think that's just something we can't miss. So thank you for sharing that.
No, that's really good. I think for me, you know, all my life, I've always felt the need to be performative. You know, I play sports, but I'm not 6'5". I wasn't like, hello?
I said, sorry, just coming alongside you. And the fact that that's not true.
So it's like, you know, like growing up, like I had to be funny to be popular. And then I started doing music, and then I was known for music. And then I started preaching, and then I became known in that space. And then, you know, and trying to develop friends, and when they would see my flaws, they would, oh wait, you're a preacher, you're this, you're not supposed to have flaws. So seeing that my humanity was rejected, what it taught me was I have to be performative in every space. So in order to be accepted, in order to be loved, I have to be performative. What started to happen is that started to show up in my relationship with God. I didn't see God as friend. I saw him as master, and I only saw myself as a servant. And it was like, if I'm not performing at a high level as a servant, then we don't have great rapport. So then that started to produce condemnation. And really what the condemnation really was, on one level you could say it's shame or guilt. On another level was I was a poor performer. And I only feel loved at the level that I perform. So it became difficult for me to see God as friend, because my real friends don't care how well I perform. And I really had to rediscover what it meant to see God as friend. And the relationship between Jesus and Peter is a relationship that really blesses me. In Luke chapter 5, Jesus shows up. Peter is fishing. He doesn't catch a thing. Peter is a fisherman by profession. This is what he is skilled at doing. The thing that he is known for, the thing that he is skilled at doing, he is performing at it poorly. And Jesus gets in his boat and he sits with him. And for me, I had to really relook at that story and say, wow, when God found me, I wasn't doing the greatest. And he still decided, I'm going to come sit in your boat. You're failing at the relational level. You're failing at your finances. You're failing at this. You're failing at that. But I love you enough to come sit in your boat.
Yeah.
And this is me showing you that you don't have to perform for me to sit with you. And as I really started to digest that, it's really kind of changed my appreciation for seeing him as friend. Because it's like, okay, on the days that I'm hitting all of the benchmarks, and I'm hitting all of the marks, you're a friend. On the days that I miss all of the marks, and I don't dot any I, and I don't cross any T, I'm gonna still come in, sit with you. I'm gonna correct you when I sit with you, right? You look at the relationship between Jesus and Peter. There was times where Peter had revelation and Jesus is like, flesh and blood did not reveal this to you. Then there are times where Jesus is like, I'm gonna tear this temple down, I'm gonna be betrayed. And Peter's like, none of these things that come by you. And it's like, I rebuke you, Satan. Excuse me? So it's like, you watch this dynamic, and then Peter ultimately ends up denying Jesus. And when Jesus raises from the grave, the angel's like, hey, go tell the disciples and Peter. It's like, no, you've got some inconsistencies, you've got some flaws, but you're still included in my plan. And what I love about Jesus, he shows us in friendship what it looks like to know all of someone's flaws and to know what they are capable of and still show up as friend. Jesus knew exactly who Peter was, and he said, no, you can still come sit at the table. Jesus knew exactly who Judas was, still washed his feet, still said, you can come have a seat at the table. So I think for me, it's just like, God knows exactly who I am. And he's still like, no, you can come sit at my table. Oh, if you won't come sit at my table, I'll come and sit in your boat. So for me, there has developed this appreciation. Like, I'm so thankful that the God that we serve is also like, no, I love you enough to just be free. So you can come to me just as you are. I love you enough to not allow you to remain who you are, but you can still come to me just as you are. And I'll sit in your boat.
That's so good. I got 2 questions before this episode ends that I think I would love to hear us just talk about a little bit. The first one is, and this is something that we didn't plan to talk about, but I think it's important. When seasons shift and friendships need to as well, and we don't have to stay on this long, but I just want to I started thinking back as we were having this conversation about one of the first major friendship shifts that I remember that I had ownership of was when I left college. And it was like, these were my people for 4 years. I mean, Ashley got married young at 23. So our wedding reception was full of people who we don't talk to today. And not because they became bad people, but because college gives you the gift of proximity. So these are my people because we always see each other. We're close together. When you live in a dorm, it's like, hey, what's up? I'm going to see you across the hall.
Friends.
And now it's like, then you get out of college and you're like, so how am I supposed to make friends out here? When do I got to be friends with my neighbor because they live across like the hallway? So what I just would be curious to see how that's shown up in you all journey, if at all. Like, have you felt like that has been a significant shift for you, and how have you navigated shifting friendships when you've had maybe friends for a season, but now you know they have to shift?
Yeah. I mean, it was difficult for me because of the conflict thing. Because to me, I recognize, this is a conflict that we are now approaching, and conflicts keep arising. And it is hard for me to want to approach it or have the conversation. But after a while, I just got uncomfortable. Like there was literally, I literally don't fit in these conversations no more. I don't add any value to this conversation. Unless I'm talking about Jesus, and I'm like, at this point, I feel like y'all are tired of hearing me talk about Jesus. So I had to recognize, okay, Ciera, this season is shifting, but that struck the core of, oh my goodness, I don't want to lose people. I want everybody to like me. If I leave this group chat, oh my goodness, I'm going to miss out on so much. What happens if whatever? And I just felt that also that it had to be an end all be all of, Ciera, you can still leave the group chat and y'all don't have to leave each other's lives per se. Like you will still have some sort of connection to them, especially with social media now, all this stuff. But to me, it felt like, oh, Ciera, if you walk away, then you're walking away from everything. But really it was just a matter of, hey, you have to recognize the season you're in, the season that they're in. And again, we always talk about in relationships that the person you are in your 20s is not going to be the person you are in your 50s.
I hope not.
I hope
I passed long enough now to know.
Yeah.
My God.
Some people are.
Oh man.
I got here today.
Help us, Lord.
Help us, Lord. But hopefully.
Age does not guarantee maturity.
It doesn't.
Yeah. Hear me loud and clear.
It certainly doesn't.
Talking to you.
Oh,
Jesus.
Not the direct point.
Right.
Man, that stuff. Well.
If the shoe fit. No, play. I'm sorry.
But no, I had to. They are. They're like, oh my gosh, he was talking to me. I just talked to him about me not feeling like I'm mature. It wasn't about you. I promise. Yeah. But no, I lost my train of thought. What I was saying, but basically, yes, I've gone through it, and I had to recognize that okay, the season is shifting. You will have to eventually shift as well, because if not, like you're actually just going to hinder your growth, and also you're going to cause more detriment to you might actually not be able to sustain this at all, like in any way, if you continue to stay in it in this way. And so I found that it was like, you are going to have to leave. And it was hard. I ended up like grieving. I feel like friendship breakups are almost harder than relationship breakups sometimes. Sure. And I remember just really grieving and feeling like my heart is broken over this friendship. And having to like take that to the Lord. Have a friend of Jesus. He could handle that too. But yeah, it was certainly difficult because of my struggle with having those conflicts and those hard conversations.
It's been a struggle for me to let go of certain friendships, and I'll give you the why behind the what. I feel this call in my life. I am called to Gentiles. I feel like that is, Great Commission, go into all the world and make disciples. I get all that. I actually feel more comfortable around Gentiles than I do like super churchy people. So for me, there's always this thing of, okay, God, I feel called to this group of people, but I feel called to be a light. But then I get around other believers and they're like, man, God called me away from that friendship. And it's like, man, that has not been my conviction. Like I've prayed about it, and God is like, no, I actually need you to stay in this because you have a greater influence on them than they have on you. And it's just like, so that has been my struggle. God, when do I stay in a thing? When do I let go? I know that I am called to people. Like I feel called to people who don't do church, a skeptic about church, apprehensive about being around church. People will name to me like different preachers and different singers and stuff like that. And I'll go, man, I don't know who that is.
Sorry to this man.
I don't.
Wouldn't know him if I saw
I know. I could probably name on two hands like how many preachers like that I know. And I don't like outside of the staff, I don't hang out with a lot of preachers. And it's not to say that I don't hang out with other believers. It's like, no, I hang out with a plethora of believers. But I think for me, like that's the burden that I've had to carry. And it requires a lot of discernment for me. Like, okay, God, when have I gone too far? When have they influenced me, and when am I influencing them? And so that's been me. So to answer your question, it is an ongoing I don't want to use the word struggle. It is an ongoing thing where I need God to give me discernment on, okay, God, I know that I've called to this group of people, but how much time should I be investing? Because I need to get poured into as well. So that is something I am still figuring out, especially now that I'm in a brand new area and I'm away from all of my friends that I grew up with and everybody who I know, they know me as Pastor Omar. And I get tired of talking about church. I get tired of, I don't mind it with my coworkers and things of that nature because we can navigate through talking about anything. But when I meet brand new people and all they want to talk about is the church, it's just like, man, I'm all talked out. Like, can we talk about sports? Can we talk about something else? So it's an interesting thing to navigate through.
No, I was just like, man, there's also the struggle of friendships and ministry.
Oh, man,
Because I think because of that sometimes it is friendships and relationships. It is difficult sometimes, I think, for people to not see us under that hat. Like at every single moment is your preacher, your pastor, your podcast. Like they only see you as that. And so the moment we introduce our humanity, it's like, oh, I didn't know you struggle with this, or I didn't know you talk like this, or I didn't know you. And not that we're putting on two different fronts, but it's just like, we are still human people. And I have found the necessity of this season of like being able to find friendships that like you can handle me on the platform and off the platform, not because I'm two different people, but because I need two different, like there's two different needs that I have in a moment of like, hey, when I'm preaching, sure, I need you to be praying for me. I need you to be hyping me up. I need you to be, interceding for me, all this stuff. But when I come off the platform, like, I need a place to land. I need safety. I need
to land. That's really good.
I need somewhere to go to just rest and retreat. And so sometimes it's like, hey, man, I don't want to talk about church right now. Yeah. And that does not make me less churchy or I don't love God any less. Yeah. I just need a moment to bring my humanity to like the table.
That's so good.
And I need a moment to not have to perform.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I say 3 quick thoughts, and then I got one more question, and we will go over a little bit today. But I think to that end, I think you spoke to it earlier. I think one of the things I do think we have to be mindful of is that unexpressed expectations can't be fulfilled.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
I think sometimes there are people who God has called into our life to be like, I can handle the both and. Yeah. I can be both an intercessor and a refuge and safe space. Yeah. But if you don't invite me into that,
that's good.
Then you assuming that I'm supposed to do that, right? It's also a form sometimes of dishonor, or it can be perceived that way.
Yeah.
So one of my great struggles was there were people who were like, the reason why I kept prayer at the forefront and talking to you, the reason why I continue to talk about ministry stuff is because I honored you that much.
Gotcha.
And I was like, nah, I needed you to just talk about the game.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, I am capable of doing that. I just didn't know that's what you needed.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Now, the other thing that Jesus models for us, which you already said, I'm piggybacking off of earlier statement, is that Jesus models for us that healthy friendship is about us having enough wisdom to know where to take off the cape or the layers and how much per the environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was 120 that saw a version of Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were 70 that saw an expression of Jesus.
Yeah.
There were 12 that had intimacy with Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were 3 who got to see something that none of the others did.
Yeah.
Like when you think about the Mount of Transfiguration, you would think the 12 all got to go.
Right.
It was just 3.
It was 3. Yeah.
3.
And so the question we have to ask ourselves too is, am I taking off too much in front of 70 or in front of 12 that only should be reserved for 3?
Yeah.
I need to be refuge. And I'm mad because the 12 is like, I couldn't handle that humanity because I never told you to show that much to everybody. Right. And so I think that's another thing for us to think about. And the last thing I'll say is, we hear this phrase, no new friends, right, in our culture or was in our culture.
Yeah. He know that one, that song.
Yeah,
no
that
new
song.
friends. Who sings it?
Drake.
Okay.
Okay.
Come on.
But I've heard no new friends, and I think that's just an immature statement to make.
Yeah.
Because the idea of no new friends means that you don't want new exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And exposure is often an invitation to the possibilities of your future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you see the same thing, you'll stay the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you see a new thing, you can become a new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no new friends is essentially saying that this is the level I want to stay on.
Right.
And so I think it's super important for somebody to say, maybe I haven't seen a new version of myself because I haven't allowed God to bring new relationships to my life that can show me the possibilities of what I can become.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's super important. I know we've used a lot of time today, but I think one final thing that does show up in a lot of people with friendships that we can't miss, and we can say this quickly, is this: what happens when it's not people? Because we're good at being like, people, like, I got to shift from people because they didn't grow. Or what happens when it's you?
Yeah.
Like when you are the culprit in this whole equation.
Yeah, man. Such the exposure. It's nothing like looking at you in the mirror and be like, I guess it was me. I think the biggest thing I have noticed for me in friendship is not loving people in the way that they want to be loved, but in the way that I receive love or how I think that we should all be loved. So for me, I don't know if y'all have heard the term of like low maintenance, high maintenance friends. So I'm a low maintenance friend. You can hit me up on Friday and then we can talk again on Tuesday. And I'm going to hit the conversation will be the same because I don't need a lot. Like I don't need you to check on me. I don't need the coffee. All that's like, those little things are great. They're so sweet. But I'm like, that is not the basis on which like, I think that you love me or I don't know, like I'm just low maintenance.
Gotcha.
But because I'm low maintenance, I treated all my friends with low maintenance energy. And so it was like, see, you're not checking on me. you weren't intentional about the fact that like, now I love words. And so again, words of affirmation is my love language. So if I know that somebody has like, they're about to start a job or they're about to do something, I'll send a book like, man, I'm so excited for you. God's going to do incredible things in your life. And so I love them in the way that I like to be loved. But I have not, and again, the theme of this is just that we focus all of this stuff on relationships, but it's like, ask your friend what their love language is. Like you should also really know how they want to be loved, so that way you can love them in that way. I have a lot of my friends are acts of service people. Like, and so that's not me. So I'm like, I'm not going to think to like, pick up this thing for you or help you in this way. And so that I have recognized like been the issue that I see in my friendships. And they've started to share of like, hey man, like a lot of times people just be like, I just want you to be a me for me. Yeah. Like I want you to show up in the way that I show up for you. Yeah. And then in which I have to share with them like, hey, actually how you're loving me, you may be actually doing a lot more than you need to. Yeah. Because I love it. Thank you. But I actually don't even need all of that. Like I am words of affirmation. So you can send me a text message that just talks about how you're proud of me, how you love me and all that. Yeah. And that is going to make me feel seen. Yeah. Whereas for you, it may be something different. So I've just really had to learn what it looks like to love people the way that they need to be loved, and desire to be loved versus loving them in the way that I think that I should love them.
Oh, that's so good. See, I think for me, the times that I have been the issue, you know, Jesus makes the statement, love your neighbor as you love yourself. The times that I love myself poorly, I love my friends poorly. Yeah. So it's like, I wasn't patient with me, so I wasn't patient with them. Yeah. I didn't give myself grace, so I didn't give my friends grace. Yeah. So I've recognized it's like, I cannot pour out from an empty cup. For sure. So there were times that my cup was empty and it showed up in how I treated my friends. Yeah. So when I have a lack of patience, like, oh, my cup is empty. Yeah. But that showed up in my friendship. So I think for me, just holding myself accountable, like, man, if I want to love others better, I got to love myself better. Yeah. It's difficult for me to affirm other people when I'm being hard on myself with my words. Yeah. It's difficult for me to be consistent with other people when I haven't been consistent with myself. So I have learned that scripture, it is a commandment, but also like a prophecy. You will love others at the capacity at which you love yourself. So I think for me, whenever I have loved others poorly, I recognize I have to increase my personal capacity so that way I am pouring out my love into my friendships from a place of overflow, not from a place of scarcity.
Yeah. That's really good.
I'll just, from the perspective, I mean, I agree with everything you guys said. I'll just add a layer to the conversation, particularly when you get married and become a parent. I don't know if people recognize how much the conversation of friendship or how difficult it feels to continue to forge friendships once that reality enters your life. Yeah. And I think there are two things that really come out of that. Number one, you have to, again, be intentional to create space in your life, because if not, excuses will become the enemy of intimacy. Wow. There will always be a good excuse. Yeah. The kids' game, the play, you will have always a good excuse. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you are getting what you need in intimacy from that friendship. Yeah. And so the first thing you got to do is make up in your mind, like, forget the excuses. I'm going to find a way to make it happen. If that means we going on a walk at the track with the strollers, if that means that we are making up in my mind, like I've gotten together with guys and we're going to be like, hey, we going to have them at the court. And we go, and we are the worst people ever, because we got to stop every 2 minutes. Hey, hold on real quick, dog. Hold on real quick, dog. Got my kid over here. Hold on. Hey, they running on the court. Hey, come on back. Put your iPad in here. Right. Call it whatever you want. Yeah. We're going to make space for this. Yeah. And it's so much easier to make excuses than to make space. Yeah. And I also think that it becomes, again, very easy to fatigue sets in. And so I was talking to somebody recently and was like, part of what happens when you start to have children is you have to practice the skill of integration, not separation. Yeah. So what happens is, I want friendships, but it takes 4 hours to play golf. And so I can't leave the house for 4 hours, so that means I can never go out with my friends. No. What you can do is, and I've done this, you can say, I'm going to play 9 holes instead of 18, which is 2 hours instead of 4. Yeah. And what you can do is say, I'm bringing my son with me. Wow. Yeah. And you say, bring your son too. And they can stay in the cart and watch iPads. but they will remember forever the day they were with us.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We didn't lose anything
Right.
by fulfilling our hobby, and then we'll take them to get ice cream afterwards.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are just ways that I've had to try to figure out, and those are just a portion size. There are a million other examples.
That's really good.
But don't let excuses become the enemy of intimacy. You need friends. And so I think it's super important that we not miss that reality. So I think, you know, as we're growing and as we think about friendships, I just don't want us to ever miss that. And I just close with this. There's this phrase from a book that I read called "Everybody Needs a King's Table." It was reference to King David. And they were like, everybody needs a Joab who's like, what hill we taking? Who we fighting today? I'm with you. Right? Everybody needs a Nathan who's wisdom, a little bit older, more mature, to be like, that's a blind spot. How you doing? What can I do to support you? Right? I'm here to listen. I'm here to help navigate.
Right.
And then everybody needs a Jonathan, a lover of your soul. What's happening underneath the surface? Galatians 2, I will carry your burdens with you. Right? And so I just want to encourage somebody who might be saying, like, all right, if I lead this, what's a practical step I can take at a minimum? You don't got to try to fill all 8 by the frame. But get your king's table.
That's really
right.
good.
Get your queen's table right set, because that will change your life.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
So good.
I feel good.
That's great. So good.
Man, it has been an amazing time hanging out with y'all. Episode 2.
At this point, we're gonna have a soundtrack for the podcast.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for the.
And the backdrop is gonna be "What a Friend We Had in Jesus." It's gonna be beautiful.
That's
a little sample.
I just want to name, since we're on the conversation of artistry before we close, you guys see this Better Together sign right here? I asked them if we can get Big Focus right here. They shut it down.
Yeah. Yep, not happening. All right, so
anyways,
we love y'all, man. Thank y'all for hanging out with us today. See, tell them how to stay connected if they want to be a friend. Only if you're a friend. You're going to be a friend of the
What
podcast.
a friend we have in all of you guys. And you know what friends do? They follow. You know what friends do? They subscribe. Do you know what friends do? They like, comment, and share. So be sure to do so on the Beyond Sunday pod on all platforms. We just want to be friends in all ways. Okay? That's all.
Friends.
Oh,
y'all left me. Wow.
I didn't know that's what you were about to do. That friends was low.
Out of my belly.
Right. I can't
Would
even
you like
go.
me to sing "What a Friend We Have in Jesus" slowly
as you pray?
Yes.
Okay.
God, we are so thankful that you are a friend. We are thankful.
Hold on, you got to start over, because somebody gonna say the judgment. They're gonna be like, they don't even take prayer seriously on that podcast. Somebody gonna take it to heart. We gonna pray for you.
We gonna pray.
All right.
All
Amen.
right, let's bow our heads. God, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for modeling friendship for us. Thank you for giving us the fruit of the Spirit, where we can have love, joy, and peace, but we can even have forbearance, and we can have long suffering, which is anti being short-tempered. You teach us to exercise this muscle in our friendships with co-workers, with in romantic relationships, with spouses, with children. We just pray, God, that you would release a grace for us to do friendships and relationships well. Teach us to love the way that you love. Teach us to be patient the way that you are patient. Teach us to endure the way that you endured. And teach us not to run from conflict, not to run from hard conversations, but to lean into the hard conversations. God, I pray for anybody who is watching who may need to spin the block on some old friendships where there was some meat left on the bones. There were some conversations that should have taken place. God, I just pray that you would kind of prick our hearts, not to condemn us, but to just charge us and to persuade us and convince us to go back and to have the hard conversations so we can salvage the friendships that you brought into our life. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Love y'all. See you next week.